Well, let's jump in. My name is Paul Baier, GAI Insights. We've been doing this for, I think, over 2 years now. And welcome to our weekly learning lab. We often have a showcase sponsor tonight, or a presentation tonight. It's just some of the big topics are coming around. So I put the stock market just because that's got a lot of interest. I got a few announcements up front. At the end, we'll have more time. We always kind of get jammed on this. More time for open mics. So it's an opportunity for people to take 2 or 3 minutes, grab the mic, share something, ask questions, share a thing what you're learning. For folks who don't know, we have a daily AI show Monday through Friday where we rate articles EO, essential, important, or optional. And it's a labor of love, but it's a great learning experience. And last week, our team had 6 articles they rated essential. One was the reasoning models. This is really good anthropic research where the reasoning models will actually show that it can be misled and purposely misled humans. So a really important thing for everyone to realize that just because they're quick and confident and beautifully formatted, they can also be devious. We continue to see amazing improvements in the whole space of code editing tool. We just updated a blog that had listed 10 of the more popular ones and a whole list of 50 that we found. And Devin, which was one that got a lot of press last year, has come out even better this year. OpenAI, to their credit, has really launched a credible free source for people learning. We continue to see millions and millions and millions of people need training, and that was a real good thing, a real good effort. If you haven't seen it, you can send me a link and go to our website. But OpenAI is really doing a great job of helping people understand these amazing tools. 3 others, continued development on automating finance and legal work. We've talked a lot about wins, words, images, numbers, and sounds. So if you have a lot of your work, digital work, is made up of that, and finance and legal does, you are absolutely going to be disruptive and have changed with Gen AI. And we're seeing it in droves, particularly in legal, but also elements in finance, and a lot of real progress being made on handling spreadsheets. In the last 60 days, tremendous breakthroughs on image generation. There's a slew of 4 or 5 major announcements and new developments here. And our friend Ethan Mollick from Wharton had a really good piece last week walking through and highlighting some of those. So we spent so much time on the LLM, the text-based models and all the advancement there, that sometimes you forget there's also those massive vectors of innovation over on the image creation side, the video creation side, and the physical robotics side as well. And then last, our team felt really continue to be impressed by the economic index, the data that Anthropic's sharing about what specific use cases they're seeing being driven, which titles and which industries. So if you're looking for some justification for budget, that particular article has got some great data in it. We have a free newsletter each day for the folks. If you if you don't watch a show live, you want to catch up there, you can do that as well. We also have a paid service where we gather this and some benchmarking data, where it's a once a week email. This goes to CIOs, Center of Excellence, and it's customized for that particular company's use cases, tech stack, and key benchmarking needs. A few events just to keep people up to speed. We continue in Massachusetts. We had a great call last Friday with our AI Blueprint for Massachusetts. This is a nonprofit effort to coordinate and grow the ecosystem here in the greater Boston and state of Massachusetts here. We actually just switched this, formed a nonprofit this, so we can take some donations, and are going to be looking at actually building out even more of the directory and have a language model for the whole entire. If you're a student, we have 114 colleges and universities in Massachusetts. That's 433,000 students come through the state each year, and 17,000 software, AI, and data engineers. And they all need to be aware of the resources we have, and we're going to continue to build that. We're also applying for a grant to build out some open source data for life sciences and medical. And if you have experience in that area, let us know. But that's one of the areas that we want to help accelerate. On last Friday, we had, I think it was the first in the world, MBA hackathon of MBA school versus MBA school. This is Harvard and MIT. Chloe and Robert and a few others put that on. It's totally sold out, wildly successful. They're going to do more of that, but I think it's a great I don't think. It is a great indication of the amazing technology we have that's leading towards citizen, developers everywhere. So here are business people, typically often not technical, but grabbing these tools with a business problem and having a great experience and learning and understanding where the edge is on a hackathon. A week from tomorrow in Boston is this massive AI summit that John Warner, our colleague over there, putting on at MIT Media Lab. It's absolutely oversubscribed. Let me know if you want to get in. I'll make sure you get in. Tickets are free. The CEO of Perplexity's there is speaking. Andrew Nin's speaking. CEO of Snowflake. Just a great set of folks here. And I'll be running, I think I've had to moderate two panels. My partner John Sfiokla is speaking as well. So it's just a fabulous way to network. For people who haven't been to John Warner's events, they're quite amazing. An amazing amount of intensity. There's no breaks. There's 5 stages, and it's all out chaos. But it's just fabulous, fabulous networking. Our event is September 29th and 30th. We already got 30 plus speakers. The president of Mayo platform is our keynote first day. And we've got a whole bunch of, we have CEO of WEX, 2 or 3 HBS professors or MIT professors speaking, a whole set of AI leaders are actually sharing, particularly in production Gen AI systems in enterprise. So that's the focus of this, is celebrating and learning from these pioneers who've actually not did just proof of concept or pilot theater, actually rolled stuff out, learn how to keep that going, learning about change management, total cost of ownership, large language model, flexibility and switchability, and et cetera. You can go to our website now, gaiworld.com, and see the list of confirmed speakers so far. And around that, we're also organizing Boston AI Week. First time we're going to 100 AI events throughout Boston. This is a centralized calendar, but anybody in the Boston area, actually anybody who wants to do an in-person event, free or paid, public or private by invitation, is welcome to. Microsoft, Emerson College, Mass Tech, Accenture, a whole bunch of other organizations and startups always already working on that. We've got an open slate for new showcases, so this doesn't happen that often. You have something you want to share, and or a customer that wants to share, let me know. We get a lot of requests from AI startups who typically don't have any customers. We typically say no to those, but if you have interesting things, we continue to be particularly interested in security, an area we feel that's underutilized and underdiscussed. The whole SEO change as we move from search engines to answer engines here, that Pete Blackshaw, Rosemary, and others have really talked about here, and managing expectations about how do we know if we're behind or ahead is one of the things we hear a lot and folks out there. So first big discussion tonight, if you haven't heard, there's some movement in the stock market in the last 3 or 4 days. Does anybody think this is important on AI or seen impact? Be interested to, raise your hand and share your thoughts. I'm particularly interested in kind of what your initial reactions are. Do you see it changing? Are you at companies that are, I know 3 companies that are already lockdown mode for recession. All discretionary press is on hold. I know 2 companies that are not changing anything they're doing in Gen AI, but they're looking at other areas. But I'm interested in what folks are seeing out there. Yeah, go ahead, Lucinda.
Yeah. So, I mean, from talking to startups, I just hear that the venture money is really clamping down. But also, I mean, we continue to talk to customers who are interested in generative AI. So it does seem like that people are, at least, it's not like, we're still pitching and talking to people and getting some traction.
Thanks, Lucinda. Hey, go ahead, Bob. Bob, good to see you.
Hey, you too. We've got a couple of things going on with national labs, and that's all been frozen. They have no idea whether they're going to get the money or not. And so it's definitely affecting us.
And Bob, is that because of the Doge stuff going on, or is that because of the recession, or just uncertainty in general?
Doge.
Doge, okay.
They have no idea what their budgets are.
Yeah.
And so whatever contracts we have are frozen. They have no idea whether there's going to be people to train. So
Yeah.
it's bad.
Coaches, I know we got some folks, I think Johnsonville, the folks in University of Pittsburgh with their PhD programs at risk. I know my aunt and uncle are professors at Princeton, doing basic research in genetics, and it's got that all in the air. So it's really a lot of change. Yeah, so we have Doge, we have, up and down the stock market here, and we have tariffs, and we have debate about how deep this recession is going to be. I found I still think I still see a lot of execs in denial a little bit. People are hoping to come back. And this flip side, though, I've talked with I should use names. I talked with companies that import, and there's the if you have a lot of tariff risk, you honestly don't know if it might go up 20 or 40%. And the two CEOs I talked with there, they said, we can't live with this much uncertainty here. We are locking down and we are slowing hiring down and spending and everything else. On the flip side, I know one other company where their sales are already up 80% because they source a lot in the US and all their competitors coming from the States. So their customers have moved over. So it's definitely benefited some, yeah. Go ahead, Samuel, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I'm in the robotics industry and we have quite a few conventions to go to in the States. And one thing I noticed that we're getting a lot of warnings as like I'm a Canadian citizen not to like go to the States because we might be detained, stuff like that, kind of heckled at the border. I'm not sure if it's true or not. I know one of my friends kind of got through to go to a wedding in Chicago, but kind of makes you kind of like reevaluate to me, if is it safe? You never know. And once you cross that border, it's like, yeah, you're in trouble.
Yeah. It's Shanghai, some folks may know, she's does some work with the Vector Institute up in Canada, and she was supposed to speak at the MIT conference next Tuesday. And she said, and John Warner and I an email saying, she's canceled a trip because she just thinks it's too risky, and she doesn't want to take the risk of crossing the border. I've got another person from India. They're visiting next week here. He was concerned that he's going to get stuck over there and asked us to verify on our letterhead that we had 3 customer meetings for him because he didn't want it to be seen like he didn't want to give the customs any kind of excuse to get in or back out. Yeah. Rosemary, what are you seeing?
So there's been cases here in Vancouver where people driving over the border are now being asked what they think of Trump, what they think of being the 51st state. 2 of the cases were then denied entry and banned for 5 years from going into the States.
These are U.S. custom
Canadian. No, these are oh yes, these are Canadians who are crossing the border for work.
Yeah.
And they were prevented from entering and then banned for 5 years.
Yeah, it is a lot of uncertainty out there. I do know I know on 2 private equity firms that we're working with who are incredibly bullish on the cost savings aspect of it, that they are full steam ahead. They are absolutely actually looking for more opportunities to retool so they aren't affected by the up and down of the public stock markets here, and they've done enough they've enough piloting or actual implementation of Gen AI, so they have full confidence to get these processes automated here, and they've got plenty of cash. So I think we're definitely going to see some big changes in some of these industries. In America here, I think it's 40 or 45% of all companies are owned by private equity now. It's like 7,000 private equity firms. So it's a whole universe onto itself, even though all the daily news is about the public markets.
Yeah, I mean, who's to say that it makes more sense in a way to really use AI because it's going to be cheaper than hiring bodies. I think that might be the converse effect.
Yeah, that's true. It could really accelerate. Mark, you don't get any more headcount. I'll give you another $100,000 in AI funds if you want for those 5 recs, but you're not getting.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I think that might happen, and we're owned by private equity, and I think that they're very, very interested in us using that as much as possible.
Yeah, that's great. Well, good. Well, any other thoughts on the stock market? Stuff goes up and down. I was on a plane when I'm in Vegas now for the Google Cloud Next conference, and it's like a 6.5 hour flight from Boston here. And the stock market people followed it. Went down and went way up and went back, went down, and a lot of whipsawing here. So great. Yeah, go ahead, Lucinda.
Yeah, so this isn't about the stock market, but it's really about the generative AI. People are really starting to compare vendors in very interesting manners, and almost like a bake-off type thing. So that has been one thing that I've not experienced before so there's a lot of interest, feeling that generative AI can really do a lot of the data storytelling on their BI, on their business intelligence. So that's, I think, one of the things that's really people can really see, because people know charts and graphs from structured data, but the story that goes along with that, takes some extra work. But if you can just get your first draft of that by using generative AI, that can be very helpful.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you. Good. Well, let's keep driving here. So a lot of stock market here. The other thing, people saw this. I was really impressed. I'm interested what people's thoughts are. I think this was leaked out. I got it sent to me. I haven't confirmed it's on the open internet, but this was a email that the CEO of Spotify sent his employees. And I'll read the first 5 major points, interested in people's feedback. One, using AI effectively is now a fundamental expectation of everyone at Spotify. AI must be part of your, forget what GD says, GDS
Get
prototype.
shit done.
Okay, thank you.
It's Shopify or Spotify?
Am I saying
Shopify, right?
Shopify, thank you.
Shopify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not enough sleep. Yeah, get stuff done prototype. And people haven't seen prototyping. It's really amazing, the tools. We will add AI usage questions to our performance and peer review questionnaires. 4, this one I particularly like. Learning is self-directed, so it's autodidactics and early heat seeker out there, but share what you learn.
Perfect. Yeah.
Learn, these are your learning lab for your own company and for your own teams. And before asking for any more headcount, teams must demonstrate they cannot get what they need to get done without
Wow,
using
great.
Yeah, I think the learning and sharing is really interesting. I have some friends who I meet with on the weekend, and we talk about, how do you get your company to use more AI? And, we were talking about how it's actually hard to get people to learn out loud. And so I've really tried to say, like, hey, this is learning out loud in public, and it is hard, but this needs to be a conversation. And so I'm trying all different types of techniques to get people to share their stories. Most people don't want to do it, spontaneously. I have to really make arrangements in advance. They may not even want to use the app in front of people, but I can show the app and then they can make a color commentary. So I'm really trying to figure out, one of my friends said, oh, I tried having doctor hours. And it's like, hey, ask us anything and we'll work it together. But that one didn't necessarily generate the interest. So I'm just wondering, from all you guys out there, what have you found that works in terms of getting people to share things and stop worry about looking like if they don't look, smart about it? Because we're all figuring this stuff out. We're all learning. Any suggestions?
I'll jump in. We actually we started a Slack channel, and what we're doing now for the last couple of weeks is I make like a 1-minute or a 2-minute video that shows like a trick. Here's how you can do something using Gen AI, and we can see how many views that's getting. And we're starting to have people come to us now saying, do you think if I did this, it would work? But you got to keep it, like, I've got something every couple days that we're pumping out into that to get people to use it, but it's a slow process. It is.
One thing, Lucinda and Mark, resonate me with so much with this, I should know his name, the CEO of Shopify is, this to me is CEO leadership. This is a CEO who gets it and is leading and pulling the organization, which from my anecdote is only 5 or 8%.
Yeah.
Other 95%, 40% of them are waiting out. Other ones is just another IT project here. And the other ones ask us questions like, oh, I need a justification to my board. Or I don't want to use names here. We were with the company, it was about 12,000 employees, privately owned. They're pushing hard. And the CIO was solely interested in how many people per week are signing on to Copilot. And I guess the way the Microsoft tracks, if you just kind of like walk by Copilot, it says you're using it. So now they have a stat that says 95% of the people are using Copilot. And I said, well, do you have any success stories and everything else? They didn't have any of this. So this kind of like intuitive nature at the leadership level, that this is transformative and we've got to get the companies going there, is really interesting. One of the folks I'm excited about having at our conference reach out, his name is Andy, I think Andy Sletzer. He's at Gates Foundation. And his title is Enterprise AI Lead, and kind of mid-level person. And about 2 years ago, he put his hand up and said, I'll go learn this. And this is kind of before. Well, since that happened, Bill Gates is pushing the Gates Foundation so hard to be the exemplar industry. So they have 2,000 employees, 4,000 contractors, so 6,000. He and the team meet with Gates every single quarter. Gates says they've done everything, Lucinda, on training. So they literally train all 6,000 on Copilot, all 6,000 on OpenAI. They have competitions. He says 50 different lunch and learns. They've tried all these different ways, and they still have the bell curve. But that kind of leadership and really implicit with Gates, they all know Gates is coming once a month, and his expectation is that you are using it. And if you come to a meeting and not talked about how you use it, so going back to the Spotify, this kind of CEO expectation, we're going to use email, we're going to use these latest tools. And I expect all of you and myself and my team to use AI. Feels like a really good best practice. Yeah. Go ahead, Bob.
So my experience at VMware when we did it there was it was top down and bottom up at the same time. So as you were saying, look for the hand raisers, go, and we created basically an AI council, which was grassroots. It was not fiat. It was, these are all the people, and we got a Slack channel together. Who's interested? Let's get all on. And then we found the people that we needed. For example, somebody from legal, somebody from IT, somebody from, each one of the departments, that we had it covered, so we could then, start to do enablement for everybody that wanted to do it. And then it became something that we reported back up to CMO and then to the CEO level of how much we were saving or how much we were, more efficient or more things that we could do. And it became a QBR for them. And so now they started to say, hey, everybody else, not just marketing, field, sales, everything else, you guys got to start following these guys. And you look for the hand raisers there. And then, I had about 350 people I was responsible for. I started doing office hours and things like that, but we did, bring your problem and I'll do it for you, show you how to do it, and then you go take it ahead. And then come back to me next week and show me what you did that's different than what so it was really a, not embarrass you in front of everybody. It's everybody sitting there and watch me do it. I'll get embarrassed. I don't care. And, show them, here's some first steps. Here's how to write prompts. Here's how to do that, and get them started and show them what's possible. One of the big ones I had was for, one of the VPs was, let's go plan your European vacation. Totally non-business, but she was definitely invested in it. And as soon as I showed her how to do it, she was totally, oh, hey, this is really cool. And then from there, it was, lights out. So anyway, a couple ideas for you.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, the hand raisers part is really important because they can really help. They can
And
help
by the way,
exemplify
this is
things.
what I do for a living. So, if you need help, let me know. That's my, sorry, my sales pitch.
Roman, can we hear you?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
and I saw just the comments from Karen, I guess, about the individualistic approach to it rather than more, scaled up approach. And that's my space I'm working on, AI adoption and AI transformation in the business process, which is more kind of practical, I guess, from the company business perspective rather than this individualistic kind of like try this, maybe help you. Besides, might not be approved by the company because you might giving up all sorts of internal information you might not be able to. So I'm not sure how the companies take it, the individual kind of approach to it. It might help my whatever I am doing specific work for productivity, but how to incorporate it really into business process. For example, I'm working actually today was at a large construction company, and they have ordering system and inventory, and they figure out that it's very cumbersome. Like, how can you help me to incorporate any AI component, Gen AI or whatever, machine learning classification and grouping or predictions and things like that in my business? So that's more interesting or productive, if you will, from business as a company perspective.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we talk a lot about the three different layers. You can use AI, you can use it for individual productivity, you can use it at the process level, or you can actually put in the product here. One of the interesting discussions we were having last week with the company is who can do an agent at a company? Can anybody create their own agent now? Go learn MCP and start ripping data, stuff off here. So the whole shadow IT is a problem, but even inside your kind of trusted wall, who's deputized to start using all these tools is a whole nother set of questions here that I'm not yet seeing a lot of good thinking on it. And I think it's going to, and probably the last thing I'll share, and I want to go to who's got their hand up here, is the whole, and I think Lucinda and Bobby talked a little about the whole deputization of employees. Christina, you have the right to be creative. Go find, because the employees know the use cases here. Sometimes I find a lot of them are just waiting. Oh, I'm allowed to actually go try it. I'm allowed to go do Copilot. I'm allowed to actually go experiment is really important part of the culture here. Other thoughts on go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, this is less practical and business focused, but one of the things that I thought about before AI really came out, and in a way, AI sort of had to come out, is the amount of knowledge people were getting, let's say in the science area, was getting ever greater and greater and greater. And so there's like students, like PhD people, it took them longer and longer and longer to get to the point where they could contribute. And they had to get narrower and narrower and narrower in their focus, even then. So in a way, AI has come out at almost exactly, quote, the right time, because if it hadn't, things would have sort of ground to a halt because the human brain couldn't absorb enough of what the culture was offering. I've been just, anyway, it's not as practical as what you guys are talking about, but I think it's sort of interesting.
But David, keep going there for a second. I mean, one of the things that I really took away from the whole MIT day at Davos with John Warner had all those things was there was said 3 or 4 times where 95% of all cognitive work that humans do 2 years from now, the robots are going to do better. Law, research, picking stocks, diagnosing illnesses, and what does that mean? And when I first heard it, I was a little jarring, and my monkey brain didn't want to believe it. I'm 100% over on that now. And when you start seeing all these things about boy, that's just understanding the current world, and then you start talking about AI finding new use cases, AI finding new code, AI finding new correlations. It really is an interesting.
Well, some people have said, and this is following on what you're saying, is that the role of humans, I mean, this has been discussed here too, is to guide what you care about.
Yeah.
So the AIs will be better at getting it than we
Yeah.
are, but maybe we're the guides. Anyway, I mean, I'm not saying that's a new idea, but it does seem relevant here.
Well, but to that end, though, it's understanding what the end is and giving the machines more on the means. This is what I want to accomplish. It. I'll let more of the machines do it rather than figuring out.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it is, as you point out, it's a full-time job just thinking about what they might do, let alone, implementing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go ahead, Lucinda.
Yeah, so I've gotten into a situation where, people will ask me to do like a really deep analysis for them. And the constraint is executive attention, because I was asked to like go look at this new strategy we might pursue. Took me 3 hours with ChatGPT, right? And I even, and I also people are telling me like, oh, you send stuff that's too long. So I did all this research, organized it, made a half-page executive summary as though you're talking to the CEO, and gave it to the EVP. But still, I mean, there's just not enough executive attention to absorb, this. So it's kind of a weird thing. It's kind of like, when it used to be when you went skiing, there was a long lift line and everybody was angry about that. Now there's so much lift capacity that actually the bottleneck is people coming down and making it more dangerous, et cetera. But yeah, it's a weird different dynamic. So a lot of times I'm just like, yep, just waiting for the executive to tell me to go ahead with that, or should I just do more research, or I don't know, or should I just go ahead and act on what I found?
I don't know, but listen, I find they always seem to find a lot of tension preparing for board meetings and executive comp and, being challenged while they're behind their competitors. But it is really hard. Yeah, go ahead, Kai. Then we'll go to David. Is it Kai? Am I saying that correct?
Yeah,
Kai?
yeah. Thanks for having me on. I'm not able to get on very many Monday nights, but I'm glad it worked tonight. It strikes me how a company as advanced as Spotify would still have issues getting their employees to practice using generative AI in their everyday work. They have some of the best algorithms known to man, in my opinion, and it's very striking that the CEO even had to write that memo in the first place.
Kai, to that point, I'm curious what others think. We've probably done Gen AI training for maybe 3,000 or 4,000 employees, and now I'm firmly convinced there's just a natural bell curve of humans in every department.
Yeah.
Data scientists, software architects, sales reps. So I'm no longer surprised when I'm talking to a group of data scientists and they're like, "What, Claude?" I think these people are so smart. They're doing and they're confident. They already achieved so much here. They're over here that there's 5-10% of them autodidactic. Like this whole group that seeks the curiosity, and there's a lot of them that aren't. So. I'm no longer surprised when really sharp software engineers and data scientists haven't heard of DeepSeek or deep research
Yes.
or anything. Yeah.
And thank you for the clarification, Karen. Yes, Shopify, not Spotify.
Yes. Yeah. I think I
I
was
would think.
part of that confusion. Yeah. Go ahead, David, and we'll go to Ellis and Mark.
Yeah, very short. I just want to say that my general circle of people are like 1 and 2 and 10-person companies, not enterprise level. But I'm also dumbfounded when the number of people, as you say, Paul, that are like tiny places that would benefit in 24 hours and don't use it at all. So it is interesting. That's all I wanted to say.
Go ahead, Ellis, and then Mark, then Raymond.
Yes, so I thought actually we want to go back to point number 4 in that bullet list from Spotify. It's essentially, I think the fact that it's not only opportunity for knowledge sharing, but it's actually the opportunity for especially senior leaders to have a sort of teaching moment as well with Gen AI. So one example is as head of cybersecurity, I always get all sorts of questions and notifications of certain suspicious spam or email, phishing email and so forth. I would like to try to automate that response essentially to share out why this particular message is suspicious and so forth, and so turn that into more of a teaching moment for the rest of the team. That I see that opportunity for senior leaders to or for HR departments to answer questions from one individual, but generalized actual response for the rest of the organization.
Ella, I think it's so great before we work. And to me, it's a lot of it like the cooking. It's a Julia Child and I don't know, the cooking people, but oh, that's how you do an onion here. And it's at 0 to 1 demystifying that where people can then go forward here versus just go in the kitchen and cook me a good meal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark, and then Raymond.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna agree with everybody else here. I mean, it's sometimes like getting started with Gen AI. I think some people feel like it's a bridge too far. Like, wow, all these things they talk about, I don't know what any of it means. How could I, a project manager, even begin to understand this? It's a matter of getting people onto the bicycle and kind of like running alongside of them for a few minutes until they just try it and they gain confidence.
And well said, Mark. And then it seems like once they get a little confidence, they're off to the races. Oh, prompt is just putting in the box. I don't have to be a prompt engineer. Oh, I can put stuff in a box and
Yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, Raymond.
Yeah, I more or less agree with what's being said. My role, the reason why I ended up doing what I'm doing, started 2 years ago, right after ChatGPT, was because I recognize that different people learn differently. And I know that I'm autodidactic and I burn with curiosity. And I wanted to be able to ensure that this rolling out this technology would be equitable. And I knew that there would be people that this would just blow right by. I also think that in the workplace, I think there's some kind of friction between when you tell employees like, yeah, I want you to use this technology. I'm sure there's some percentage of them that are thinking like, why should I use this new tech if it's just going to turn around and take my own job? It's like, reluctance to train the new hire, because you don't want to train yourself out of a job. So I think there's some fear there. But I'm also grateful that I was able to absorb this information independently, because I'm able to see the max what do you call the max view, the global view, the overall view, rather than if I worked for a company, if I worked for, say, a specific company, and they're aligned with a specific tech group, like we use AWS or we use Microsoft. That's where my focus is going to be for an employee, and it's going to be hard for me to know about DeepSeek or to know about Llama or to know about, Gwen or anything else, because I have to focus. I only have so much time in the week, and I have to focus on what I'm using for my job at that company. So there's a lot of I'm doing a session coming up this week. It's called Everything You Want to Know About AI, but We're Afraid to Ask. And I'm targeting people who know where that comes from, who are familiar with that movie and that book. It's like I want people to. Yes, there's a lot of utilitarian things and business things to do with it, but I also want to suss out, I want to pull out that creative aspect of people, and the dishwasher and the street sweeper and the sanitation guy, they have amazing ideas, and it's just giving them the confidence and showing them how simple it all is, right? That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, but it's interesting, Raymond. The whole theme is this whole change management, different aspects. So everyone's talking about it. I may have told the story last week. I was in a dentist a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just yik-yakking about AI to every Uber driver and everything else. And the woman's cleaning my teeth, and I say, "Hey, use AI." She goes, "I think were you in here last year asking me that same question?" And I said, "Have you used it?" She goes, "I haven't thought about it at all since you were here last year." And we had a whole little, it was just kind of a shock. It was shocking to me, where I still find people who hadn't even used it here. Last quick thing I want to go to Karen is the fortunate that do some work at Harvard Business School, some over there probably at least every other week. And they're still probably, and it's mandated over there. All first-year students are going through a Gen AI training. Every course has got a Gen AI element to it. And there's still 20 to 30% of the students who are not embracing it all. I don't know if it's confidence or late adopterness or what it is. They're certainly aware of it, but it is definitely change management in a micro and macro sense here. But go ahead, Karen. Good to see you, and happy Monday.
Hey, Paul. Glad I could join today. What a fascinating discussion. I think a couple things came to mind, especially I want to appreciate Raymond's thoughts about just how the AI can be used for people who learn differently, which I think is a very powerful message, because AI doesn't force you into learning a particular way. And so it really, that open-endedness really does, I think, facilitate the opportunity for people who have been kind of locked out of a lot of careers and positions because they just think differently or have a different approach. And so I'm very excited about that. And when I look at that Shopify list, I would love to see one more point on there around like, what could you do with AI that is holding you back today? Or something around like, you know, what is holding you back? What is keeping you from reaching the next level in whatever it is that you want to do, and investigate how could AI help you overcome whatever that challenge is and reach a higher level in whatever it is that you do.
That's great. Thanks, Karen. Go ahead, Tim.
So I think these are reasonably good points. I think, you know, at least my experience, it's a little, I've been through a few big changes, the PC revolution, the internet revolution. They always take longer than people think. And part of it is that most people's calculus in most jobs is, I want to pay my mortgage. And there, as you said, there are the autodidactics, the heat seekers, whatever you want to call them, but they're a very small fraction of the working population, really small. Most people's first calculus is, am I going to keep my job long enough to keep paying my mortgage? And that's a basically conservative notion. So it's very hard to get these people. And the more successful they are, the stronger it gets, because if they're successful, they're very busy. And I can tell you this, you know, in my past experience and my current experience, the hardest thing is to get the successful people to pay attention, because they don't have a spare second and things are going great. And so they can, even if they can voice the idea, you know, it's like the Thomas Kuhn problem. If you've ever read The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, you know, Einstein was the one who first pointed out that there was a quantum effect, but he could not work it out because he just couldn't believe it. And he had worked out the continuous stuff in relativity. And so there's just these issues that are very difficult for people psychologically to get over. And you add that up into a group, it gets reinforced. So the larger the company, the more people who aren't doing anything because they're sort of being conservative, the harder it is to get them to move. So I think it's a good idea for the CEO to set events and expectations like this. That's one of the ways you get people to pay attention. Say, you better make time for this because it's going to be part of your review, because I expect it of everybody. So I think that's good. I think I was a little busy earlier. The stock market thing is real. I think people are in denial if they don't think the world is going to fall off a cliff. And the only question is how far and how many people are going to get killed and how many cars are going to break. This is not a one-day issue. This could be a many-year issue. Remember, it took years to recover from 2008. And I think that was, in my personal opinion, I think that was less catastrophic than what we're currently doing, because we're ripping world trade apart, and that is going to shrink all the economies simultaneously. So that's going to affect AI. You know, it just is. It's going to affect funding and everything.
So keep going, Tim. That's one scenario. It could well be a 2 to 8 year recession that's pretty deep and a lot of serious cutbacks on jobs and spending.
Well, and I think a reordering of the entire world, that's what could make this last a long time. Yeah, I have lots of friends around the world because I've been in science for a long time, and I can't think of a single other country I know that isn't actively now planning on how they're going to get along without the United States, because the United States is no longer a trustworthy partner. It's amazing how quickly, you know, it's sort of, I was joking the other day, it's kind of like systems. When you're in the systems business, it takes a second to crash a massive computer system and days to bring it back up. And so there's this big asymmetry that it's been 2 months, 3 months, really hasn't been very long. And we've pretty much put the US reputation as a partner in tatters, and that does not get built back in a day. So this is real. It's going to take a long time. I don't know how bad it's going to get, but it's real.
And particularly if it moves even more of the global trade off the US dollar. I saw last week or something, the very first container ship of oil was sold without being US dollars to the
Yeah,
tax.
yeah. I think people make a little, I know a little bit about economics too. I think people make too big an issue about the dollar as a reserve currency. I think the bigger issue is that the world is going to shrink. Literally, the global economy will shrink and shrink quite a bit. We don't even know how much because it's a self-reinforcing phenomena. So it's just hard to say how far it will go, but it's clear it's going to shrink. And they're sort of throwing gas on the fire by also shrinking federal spending and federal workers at the same time. All these just shrink things. And people forget, that credit and the size of the economy, I liken it to a bath where there's water flowing in and water flowing out. This is why you can pay attention to monetary stuff and things, and it doesn't always add up. Because if credit is being sucked out faster than money is being pumped in, it doesn't matter how much money you pump in, it's not inflationary, it's deflationary. That's what happened in 2008. Everybody thought we were going to be the Weimar Republic, and we actually had deflation for a while. And I think that's the kind of place we're headed right now. We're just going to suck all the juice out of most of the economies of the world because we're the engine of most of the economies of the world, and it's going to take a while before they resettle. So it's going to be, you have to grit your teeth for a while. And AI is going to be probably better off than a lot of things, but it's not going to be unaffected. It just can't be unaffected. It's just too big.
Great, Tim. Insightful as usual. Let's go to Chef Kelly and then to David. Go ahead, Kelly.
Oh gosh, sorry about that. I was actually going to piggyback on what Raymond and Karen said, and I happen to work with groups of people who are in this spirit are becoming more entrepreneurial because they want to teach the courses. They want to teach other people how to use AI. And one thing that they have to remember is it's like the adage, like, you can't get to the penthouse if you don't know how to use the elevator. And it gets that simple. You have to think that everybody in that room or in that Zoom call doesn't even know how to press the elevator button yet. And I think that that's when we talk about adoption, is ease of use, is and going slow is really what will see widespread adoption, I think.
So Kelly, go with that. You said ease of use. Do you feel that AI is hard to use now for some people?
Oh gosh, I think it's very intimidating, and the intimidation can kind of overflow, or like what's the word? It intimidates them to the point where, like for me, Quicken is not hard, but it intimidates the hell out of me, so I make it hard. You know what I mean? And it's sort of that mentality that, like, oh, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, so I'm just not going to try, or they're going to laugh at me, or I'm going to hold up the class, so I'm not going to raise my hand and ask the question. And that's where we really need to be inclusive. I know people don't like the word inclusive, but we need to be inclusive and say, please tell me if I'm going too fast. Please tell me if I say something you don't know what it means,
Great.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of FUD around AI, hallucinations and that type of stuff.
Not I don't think it depends on competitive stuff. Not when your lawyers are losing business because their customers are doing it. But let's go to Alexandra, and then I think there's one other hammer. Go ahead, Alexandra.
Yeah, I think that especially when it comes to the last step, when it comes to, when the Spotify CEO was talking about more headcount and resources, I think this is going to play into a lot of what we're seeing, because I think the future is going to be just people managing AI agents. I think Paul Graham mentioned it, like, IT is going to be managing all these different AI agents from, certain sectors, and that's going to be their job. And when it comes to on a geopolitical level, I know that we're talking about tariffs and all of that, but also another thing that's going to be on the horizon, well, hopefully not, but the whole Taiwanese situation with the Chinese, because not only we have the rare minerals that are coming from China that they're not going to be exporting, but also the fact that most of the semiconductor industry is in Taiwan. So we're going to have to deal with that and that whole aspect. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out over the next 12 to 18 months.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alex. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, all I was going to say is not trying to take away from people's experience of the difficulty some people have starting with it. What I was going to say, ignoring those comments, is I think people don't understand that the ROI for using many of the AI tools is 72 hours, not 6 months. And for me, that, that, so I think you can start going and, it pays back itself 10 times over by the next day. But I guess that isn't true for everyone listening to other people.
Well, David, let me turn the stop sharing. Can you go with that a little bit here? Because the thing I see, David, is I call it last mile problem. People start with it, so it gives me 80% I want, but it's not good enough to wow me, so I throw the tool away. So, yeah, it was a good research report, but was it good enough? And I'm not motivated enough or started to go figure out the last. I mean, it's a whole software issue we have in all the software projects here. So that kind of novelty but didn't wow me factor is one thing I see a lot on the novices who want to try it. And even when I show them, like, I'm such a OpenAI deep research thing, I go get, here's a 30-page paper on something you're a subject matter expert for, and your job is to research, and you agree to save you 3 months or 3 weeks of work. You still don't do it because I got 2 things wrong.
Right. Well, here, okay, I totally get that. And I have to admit that when I'm programming, the last 20% can really suck a lot of time, so I totally get that. But here's the thing. And I know you're into Gen AI, but let's just take the reverse, which is dumping something you really don't want to read. This is what's going on in the chat about a white paper. So you dump something that's like a 200-page cut, and you get back a quick summary or a way to interactively ask questions like in Notebook LM, even if they don't believe in the Gen part,
Right. Summary part, yeah.
The summary part, yes.
Well, and then if you teach them, then ask them, create 2 questions from this that would impress my boss or my investor. And show them how to even go to the next level.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll just wrap it up here. Let's go to Christine. We'll go back to Tim. Go ahead, Christina.
Well, that's good order because I'm going to pick up on what Tim was saying. I actually think we're in for a 50-year period, Tim. We have broken
50-year
recovery because we have broken so many things globally. We've broken the trust that we have between the United States and every other country around the world that we have treated as a trade partner. We've broken our federal systems. We've broken our trust in our government. We've gotten rid of the experts that we had in many of the roles, which we would have to recover from. Our economy is in uncertain land, which is the worst place you can be. You'd be better off in certain land where you know why things are down than to be in uncertain land and never know when the next shoe is going to drop. And we have a problem of people, we're in a transition in what we need from people, and they're not ready. So we're going to have lots of people who are not only unemployed, we're going to have people who are financially destitute because of this combination of factors, which takes a lot longer to recover from. They're not just decreasing the amount of capital they have available and their safety, they are going below the watermark. So I think we're looking at a 50-year period of time where if the United States recovers and takes back a leading place in the world, it will take every bit of that time to make that happen.
And Christine, to say a little more. So 25% unemployment for 50 years,
well, I don't know what the numbers are going to look like, but if you just look at what happened when in other cases where we have had multiple economic regions experience dramatic underpinnings at the same time, you could take the 2 world wars, for example, it takes a long time to recover from that. It is a rebuilding. It is not a reactivation. It's not, oh, we're just going to put the funding back into that part of the federal government. Oh, we'll just hire back all those people we laid off. Oh, we'll just reinstate our treaties and our, repeal the tariff. It's not that easy. We've broken things. And because we have broken them, we don't just get to repair them like, Japanese artists with the porcelain, right? This repair is a rebuild, a restructure. Every relationship that we have broken has to be rebuilt with trust that takes time to build. In the meantime, they've got to run their countries and run their economies too. They're going to go build relationships with others. So now we're not only having to recover what we lost on our own, but we have to overcome the relationships that are already sucking up their attention and their economy. So we have a very serious problem in front of us.
Yes.
All right.
I will be gone before it's fixed.
Yep. I'm not sure a lot of people disagree with that. Tim, do you want to Polly, can we
Well,
leave
you know,
it?
I wasn't actually, hadn't raised my hand about that, but I'll comment just briefly, you know, and say, look, if you really want to read a good brief thing, go find an essay called My Graduation Speech by Neil Postman. It's very short, and it describes the Visigoths versus the Athenians, if you know your history. And I don't know if we're in the Visigoth realm right now, but the Visigoths, you know, led to the Dark Ages, which was 1,000 years or more. So people don't realize that civilization is asymmetrical. It takes a lot more energy and power to keep it together than it takes to break it apart, and a long time to rebuild it. I don't know what's going to happen. I just think people are in denial if they think it's going to be pretty for the next few years at least. Ecosystems recover, and the other side is ecosystems are more resilient than people think. When the Alaska oil spill happened, people thought it was going to be the end of the world. Turned out that the ecosystem was not undamaged, but a lot less damage than people expected. So it's just hard to predict. It's not going to be fun.
Ecosystems collapse when you have enough of the elements that sustain the ecosystem change at the same time. That's the fundamental difference. And I guess I'm an optimist if I think it's only going to take us 50 years.
Well, I want to end on a positive note. I do think the people who will survive are the early adopter autodidactics with this whole group is. I think there's selfishly tremendous employment opportunities for people, AI native companies. And
I think we'll do okay. And I'll make one last quick joke, which was to the point of why don't people use this stuff? And, you know, there's a great old joke that I used to tell all the time because I've been in emerging technologies all my career. And we say, hey, there's this person running alongside his bicycle. And people keep yelling at him as he's running along. Why don't you get on your bicycle and pedal? You'd be so much faster. He says, I would, but I haven't got time to stop.
Lucinda, you want a quick one before we end?
Yeah, one final word. I was listening to some podcast about different types of jobs, and basically the jobs that are looking for generative AI skills, there's 4 times as many of them as there are people who are qualified for them. And so I have a friend who is just laid off. I'm like, you are so lucky because you have a great opportunity to learn and be able to build these skills. So I didn't necessarily cheer him up, but you know, I think this is the time.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Fabulous, great discussion. Thank you for all the contributions. Let's keep the learning going. Thank you. Have a great week.